everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mary Grace Spills the Tea. Now, in this episode, it's a little bit of old tea, if that makes sense. So this isn't anything new, but I wanted to talk about this trend since almost a decade of American Girl creating characters based off of real people and not giving those real people credit. Now, this is a phenomenon I've seen a few people talk about on YouTube and on Instagram, but I thought I would just do a thorough video on all the cases that I know of that American Girl has done this. And several of these instances have led to lawsuits. Not all of them have, gone to court and been like a legal process, but a lot of them have resulted in lawsuits, and that's why there is news articles about them. And then other times there is news articles where these people they haven't done any legal action, but they just feel like American Girl copied their likeness. First, we're going to be talking about Caroline. Now, Caroline is a historical character that came out from American Girl around, I think, 2012 was when she was released. So first, we're going to read an article from CBC, and the article is titled Caroline Yardley Fights Mattel's American Girl for Her Name. So it's Caroline versus Caroline, which is, just different spellings of the name. So Caroline from American Girl, of course, has, the more traditional spelling, while Caroline has a Y, which is the name of the artist that we're going to be talking about. Victoria, BC artist who trademarked her name is fighting one of the world's largest toy companies after Mattel's American Girl tried to take the name for one of its newest dolls. American Girl is a wholly owned subsidiary of Mattel Inc. and is headquartered in Middleton, Wisconsin. American Girl announced its expansion into Canada last October. Mattel wanted to register Caroline as a trademark in Canada to use for its Caroline Abbott doll, a new entry into the American Girl line of historical characters by Mattel. But the Canadian Intellectual Property Office is blocking the request, saying Mattel's intended use of the trademark Caroline was too similar to the trademark for Caroline that was issued in December 2008 to Victoria Caroline's Yardley. Yardley's trademark covers the use of her name for her artwork, which includes paintings, books, caricatures, many of which fall into her series of squirrel realism, which tend to feature human figures depicted with squirrel heads. Yardley says she spent thousands of dollars already fighting American Girl's application to cancel her trademark, now wants to warn other artists and entrepreneurs about the expense of Canada's trademark process. Under the current system, a clause kicks in 3 years after the trademark is registered that allows anyone to challenge it. It's part of an effort to remove deadwood from the registry. When American Girl is applying for a competing mark, Yardley has to prove she's using the trademark. This is costly, as you need to have a contingency fund, anything between $3,000 to $5,000, Yardley told CBC News. Yardley says she has spent even more than that after negotiations to share the trademark with the American Girl doll and book line fell through. She also expects it will cost even more to keep fighting if she wins her current dispute with an American Girl proceeds to appeal to a higher court. And like all the articles on this list, I will have the links in the description box below, so if you want to read the full thing, you can go check that out. What do you think about this case? Do you think that she has legal ground to stand on? Do you think this is the reason Caroline was retired from American Girl after having a short period of time? I don't know, because there is a lot of American Girls that are not available through the Chapters Indigo website, which is where you order American Girls in Canada. Like, we don't have Addie, Josefina, Kit, or Samantha, or Kaya. So we don't have those dolls, and I don't know the exact reasoning why American Girl, you can't buy those dolls in Canada. I mean, you could always buy them from the AmericanGirl.com and have them shipped to you, but it just costs more. But do you think this is ultimately why Caroline was retired? Or do you think they could have done what Kaya and Addie was... Or do you think they could have done what they do with Kaya and Addie, which makes her available in the United States? Or do you think she was retired for a completely different reason? Make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. In this article from them, uses the proper pronouns for the person who is claiming that American Girl copied them. Their pronouns, Luciana Walkowitz uses they, them pronouns and identifies as non-binary. However, in the Daily Mail article and a lot of the articles that I have seen, they used she, her pronouns, which is not their preferred pronouns. So a lot of people actually called me out on that when I made a video of referencing this before, because when you do research it, a lot of news articles don't use the they, them pronouns, which is what this astronomer likes to use, and they use she, her. Side point. So if I goof up, I'm not doing it intentionally. It's just because most of the articles refer to them as she, her, so, which is not correct. But anyways, let's keep going. This non-binary astronomer alleges American girls stole their identity for a doll. Luciana Walkowitz, or Lucianne Walkowitz, is one of the most widely seen figures in science today. After American Girl debuted Luciana, a lawsuit alleges the similarities between them go beyond mere coincidence. Astronomer Lucianne Walkowitz would rather talk about space than American Girl dolls. But an uncanny resemblance between the real-life scientist and a recent toy from the Mattel-owned company has dominated many of Walkowitz's conversations since American Girl's 2018 Girl of the Year descended from Good Morning America's studio ceiling, met by an adoring crowd of young girls dressed in blue astronaut suits. Walkowitz's inbox and social media profiles were soon inundated with notes from surprised friends and peers who were amazed by the many visual details in the doll that had in common with Walkowitz's distinct public image. The doll sports a similar purple streak of hair and holographic boots and an even near identical first name, Luciana. The doll's surname, however, is Vega. Some were first convinced that Luciana was simply the younger official doll version of the real-life Lucianne. One longtime friend glanced at the company's January-February 2018 catalog and while flipping it through her mail. She spotted what appeared to be me on the cover, Walkowitz recalls. She called me, "Please tell me how this happened." And Walkowitz had no answer other than, "Oh my god, it's me." It's not just the superficial details of the doll. They tell me in one of the only interviews they've granted on the subject. It was also career details. They tend to keep busy with other projects. They rank among the most widely seen figures in science today. As TED Senior Fellow and astronomer at Chicago's Adler Planetarium, Walkowitz's many lectures reach an audience of millions. They often touch on two prominent themes: the ethics of Mars exploration and findings from the NASA's Kepler mission, which focus on a northern region of the sky with the constellation Lyra at the center. Vega, a nickname Walkowitz has publicly uttered many times, happens to be the brightest star in the constellation. That I am aware, there is no one else who works at the Kepler field and Mars exploration at the same time, except for this doll, apparently, Walkowitz says. American Girl describes the Vega doll as having a head for science and a heart set on exploring Mars. To Walkowitz, it seems to go beyond mere coincidence. That I am aware that no one else who works at the Kepler field and Mars exploration at the same time, except for this doll, apparently. Discussions with the company were unproductive, says Charles Lee Mudd, Jr., Walkowitz's lawyer. Mudd filed a federal trademark lawsuit for his client in late April. In the complaint, Walkowitz alleges the toy maker copied her likeness without authorization. The lawsuit requests that Mattel, American Girl's parent company, stop selling the doll. The message seems to be out. Make a unique identity for yourself in STEM. Be creative and we'll turn around and steal your identity from you, Mudd says. Outlines several instances where American Girl employees and consultants were exposed to Walkowitz's research before the Luciana Vega doll emerged. Designer Rebecca Duquepler and several of her colleagues reportedly attended a 2014 lecture at the Monona Terrace Convention Center in Madison, Wisconsin, located less than 10 miles from the company's office in the suburbs. At the Monona Terrace, Walkowitz once again spoke about the Kepler mission. In 2016, American Girl consultant and NASA scientist Ellen Stefan appeared at the White House Frontiers Conference in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where Walkowitz also spoke. 1 minute later, American Girl filed a trademark for Luciana. So this is interesting because this case is interesting because American Girl can't claim that they didn't know about Lucianne's work, which is a key thing. A lot of, people try to sue singers, for example, saying that they copied a song, but the only way that lawsuits actually get won is because if you can prove that this person was aware of this song and heard the song and then copied it. So this is a very similar situation. American Girl would have a really hard time arguing that that was the case because they had went to Luciana's Wakawich's conferences and lectures, and they went to those things. And in another article, they talk about how they were even interviewed by people who worked at American Girl. And of course, this astronaut claims that many iconic things that are associated with them, like their short purple hair and their holographic boots, were also featured on Luciana. But what do you think about this case? Do you think that an American Girl copied off of this real-life astronomer? Out of all the cases on this list, I feel like this one is the most likely. There's a lot of similarities between Luciana the doll and Luciana Wakowitz, the astronomer. So I definitely think that they have, you know, some strong legs to stand on, saying that American Girl copied their image. The next example of American Girl copying a doll after a real-life person is Amanda Gorman, who is most famously known at being, or at least how I heard of her, was her being the poet at Joe Biden's, or President Joe Biden's inauguration. And I remember, you know, her being there with these, you know, bright yellow suit, which was so cool. Several people have said that they've known about her before this, but I'm not into poetry at all. So this is the first time that I heard about her, was at Joe Biden's inauguration. And the article is titled, Amanda Gorman says American Girl used her likeness for a doll without asking. The doll was described as a poet with a stutter. In a recent interview with Vogue magazine, youth poet laureate Amanda Gorman, which that's a proper title before Amanda, that's a proper I did a little research, so she won an award for being a poet, so this is like the proper title for winning that award, so she's a very, very good and popular poet. Amanda Gorman said American Girl used her likeness in 2017 without her permission. As Gorman told the publication, she had even been booked to speak at an American Girl outlet to celebrate their annual Girl of the Year, a girl called Gaberiella, when she noticed something unusual with the doll. Apparently, it resembles her. In 2017, the Girl of the Year, Gaberiella, is described on American Girl's website as a true talent who gets creative for a cause. It's a brown-skinned doll with curly hair. Gorman is brown-skinned with curly hair. People who brought Gaberiella could also take to the website to create their own Gaberiella poem, much like the young poet. At the time, Amanda Gorman had been named the Youth Poet Laureate for Los Angeles and was a freshman at Harvard University. When she was told about the Gaberiella doll that night before helping to introduce her to the world, she was described on the American Girl website at the time as a girl who loves arts and uses poetry to find her voice as she makes a difference in her community. She was shocked. She was a black girl with a speech impediment, Gorman told Vogue, and someone who grew up with her own speech impediment. That hit home for her. American Doll told Vogue that the girl was not styled after Gorman, and the young poet still participated in the event because I felt like if I backed out from the event, she told Vogue, I would be failing the girls who would have this black doll. Despite American Girl's denial, a 2016 story published by ABC News noticed that Gaberiella McBride was indeed described as a girl who uses poetry to break down barriers and uses the medium to overcome her personal challenges of stuttering. She was also sold with performance-inspired outfits, including colorful choices that resemble Gorman's own flair for dramatic colors. Scholastic also partnered with American Doll to host American Doll is just making me laugh. To host a poetry contest in honor of Gaberiella. The similarities are pretty striking. 4 years after Gaberiella was created, Gorman's star has risen considerably. She skyrocketed to international fame after an incredible poetry performance at President Biden's inauguration and has gone to be interviewed by people like Oprah Winfrey and Hillary Clinton. There's even a little boy who dressed up as Gorman for his school's Dress Like Your Idol Day. So what do you think about this example? Do you think that Gaberiella is based off of Amanda Gorman? And what are your opinions about American Girl, copying off of people in general? Do you think it would still be okay if American Girl got permission from real life people to do this? Or do you think this is just a lazy way of creating new characters and dolls? Now, there is some honorable mentions that I thought about talking about on this list that I have seen the community talk about, but I wasn't able to find any articles about. And that's probably because maybe the people who they're based off of, or rumored to be based off of, don't feel like getting into a legal battle, or maybe there's just not enough information. One comparison that I see all the time is between Blair and Pioneer Woman. Now, Pioneer Woman is a blogger who creates like cooking recipes, and she has like things sold in Walmart, and she's a very much like a country aesthetic and likes cooking and baking, and she does other things as well, but she's, you know, I see her all the time and like as a host for like, you know, cooking shows as like a guest host. So she does a lot of baking and just has this country farm aesthetic, and they both have bright red hair. So that's one comparison I see all the time. I wasn't able to find any articles about it. And then some people point out that Tenney looks very similar to old school Taylor Swift. And I feel that too with Tenney. Like, she came out in 2017, but I feel like her looks and her outfits are very early 2000s, which is when Taylor Swift was starting to become popular. Taylor Swift, I think, got her first album in 2006 when she was 16 years old, or around that. I'm not a huge Swiftie, so I don't know the details of it, but Tenney definitely has those feelings of being more from the early 2000s than 2017, especially with some of the sparkly outfits and the boots. But I don't see Taylor Swift. She makes so much money, she probably doesn't even have the time to sue American Girl, and she probably wouldn't even make that much money considering how much time she would have to put into it to sue American Girl over this, and she might not even win. So what do you think about the times that American Girl is rumored to have copied off of other people? Do you think that these cases are valid? Do you think that some of them are pretty credible? Make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you keep up to date with all the American Girl news, and also make sure to follow my Instagram for more updates over there. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.